What's going on, you guys? We are going after some squat kind of prep recovery work today. So we're going to be working on a lot of stuff that involves the hips. We're going to be getting into a squat a lot. We're going to be working on a little bit of lunging. But the idea is to kind of either get ourselves prepped to do a lot of squatting or else to recover from a lot of squatting that we've already done. So if you have problems with this stuff, save it, bookmark this one. You can save it for later. We're going to begin in a wide-legged forward fold. So we're going to go out wide with our feet. Okay, we're going to spend 2 minutes here. All right, you guys can move around a little bit if you'd like, but go wide with your feet. We're looking to stretch the insides of our legs. So this, the muscles, our adductors here get really tight and they prevent us from getting into squats with our back flat. They kind of throw off the mechanics. They make our knees want to cave in. So getting these things moving and stretching them out a little bit can go a long way. So you get a little bit of creative freedom here. You can walk your hands between your feet, walk your hands off to one side, walk them off to the other. You can bend into one leg. Okay, so now my left leg's bent, my right leg gets a little bit more pronounced stretch. You can go back to the other side. But just spend the next, we got about a little over a minute to go here. Just moving around, okay? Anything that feels good, anything that feels like it puts a little bit of pressure on the inside of your legs is fine. You can keep your knees locked out. That might help those muscles engage and stretch. Maybe drop your chest down a little bit lower. So we got another 20 seconds here, then we're going to get into what's called a crouch, or what I call a crouch. We're just going to sit basically into the bottom of our squat, but we're going to let our heels lift up. So a nice way to get into the first squat of the day, or to kind of ease into it if you're sore or if your legs are feeling kind of stiff, this is a nice kind of entry-level way to get there. So I'm going to let my heels be up off the ground. I'm just going to crouch down, okay? So I can put my weight into the top of my legs and kind of push my shin down toward the top of my foot. I can lean to the right a little bit. I can lean to the left a little bit. But I like this because it puts a little stretch and exaggerates the angle of your ankle a little bit, which really helps get you into a better squat. People that have good, strong mobility in their ankles tend to be able to squat with a really strong position, meaning their torso stays really vertical. So this is a good way to kind of get that range of motion moving. You can rack your weight from side to side a little bit. Maybe plant one heel at a time, but do move around a little bit. We got about another 20 seconds here. Then we're getting into a deep lunge. We're going to go for 1 minute per side as next up. If you're just getting started for the day, or if you're tired or sore or something like that, sometimes sitting into a squat with your heels on the ground can feel like a little bit much. So this is kind of a nice way to bridge that gap. Next up, we're getting into a deep lunge. So I'll go with my right foot forward first. My left foot's back. You guys can do anything that you'd like here. You can drop your back knee down to the ground, whatever feels best, but work on feeling some tension in your hips. So I'm stretching out the back of my front leg and the front of my back leg. My right hamstring, this leg feels a little tension. The left hip flexors feel the same way. I'm going to keep my back leg locked out. I think that gives me a little bit better stretch. So I'm going to stay that way. You guys can do whatever feels best for you. We're 30 seconds in on this side. We're going to go 30 more seconds, then we'll switch it up. Move around a little bit. See if you can move your hips from left to right. All right, you guys, let's go ahead and switch sides. So whatever you did on the other side is totally fine, but try to mimic that on either side so that you're staying symmetrical as you work. I want to try to provide the same stretch for both sides as we work. Keep moving around. Feel for what is going to provide the best stretch for where you were at. Keep moving around, push your hips from side to side. Maybe sit back and straighten out your front leg. Anything that feels like you're getting a adequate stretch through your hips one way or the other here is just fine. Just find something that feels productive. We got about 10 more seconds. Next up, we're gonna go to a squat hold, but we're gonna have our back against a wall. So I'll just go to the wall right behind me. Okay, the setup's kind of goofy here. I got a low ceiling, so I can't stand all the way up, but I'm gonna try to get my heels back towards the wall, and I'm gonna sit with my back flat against it. Okay, so I'm gonna go about 6 inches or so away from the wall, and I'm just sitting. Okay, so my back is completely flat, which is the advantage that I like in this. The further back you can go with your heels, the better stretch you'll get through your ankles. Okay, so we're just kind of hanging out here. We're just in a very passive position, just letting ourselves kind of sink into the bottom of our squat. So we're just taking our hips through a very full range. Knees are fully flexed. Maybe even our ankles get a little bit of stretch here. You don't want your feet too far out in front of you though. So think about keeping your heels back towards the wall. Shift your weight from side to side a little bit. We're gonna be here for 2 whole minutes. 2 minutes, no big deal. So if you look at the position of your knees, they're probably gonna be out in front of your toes a little bit. So that's what we're looking for when we get into a squat. We don't want our shins to be completely vertical. It's gonna make our back angle go from here to there. If our shins are vertical, it's gonna make us tip forward. So we're trying to work on kind of getting those knees to go forward, get those ankles moving. Any movement around here that feels good for you guys is totally fine. We're here for about another 35 seconds. We're gonna move in 20 seconds into some figure 4 hip circles. So we're gonna start in a tabletop position. The setup on these is a little bit goofy, but I'll talk you through it. So you guys can stay for another 10. This is gonna be the setup that we're getting into, okay? I'm gonna go to a tabletop, and then I put my right ankle in front of my left knee, okay? So I got kind of like a 4 shape going on here, bunch of right angles. I'm gonna push my hips off to the right, okay? Feel a little stretch there on the outside of my glute, and then I sit back and then come back through neutral. So I push off to the right, sit back, come back through neutral. Push off to the right, sit back, come back through neutral. We're just doing circles through our hip for 1 minute per side. If you're having trouble feeling this, you want to start with the top of your leg as vertical as possible. So if it's at an angle that you if it's not straight up and down out of the ground, try to get there and then try to do those circles. That's what we're looking for. That's what's going to give you the best angle to stretch from. This is also one that I really like to do as a warm-up before a workout. If my hips are feeling tight, this is a good one. This works on the rotation of the hip, where we tend to just think about it as forwards and back a lot when we stretch. This works on rotating as well. All right, y'all, let's switch it up. Other side. So now my left ankle's in front of my right knee, and now I'm gonna push my hip off to the left, and then sit back. Remember, we're trying to get that hip, the femur, the top of our leg, to vertical before we start. So I push off to the left, and then come back. If you're not feeling it, just try to change the position of the leg, the left leg. See if you can move it to a position where then when you start to do your circles, you can feel it a little bit more. We got about 20 more seconds here. We're getting into the pigeon stretch next. We're gonna be there for 2 minutes per side. A few more circles. All right, you guys, pigeon. We'll go to the right side first, or whichever leg you did first on the figure 4 circles a second ago. So start with that front leg. Try to get it as perpendicular to your body as you can. Okay, back leg just trailing back behind you. I like to start the pigeon stretch off by walking my weight back a little bit. Okay, sometimes we focus a ton on the forward fold, but I like to work on getting some significant rotation into my hip before I kind of relax into that forward fold. So I sit back, so now my upper body's stacked on top of my hip, and I'm putting extra pressure into this hip, as long as it's pain-free. Okay, that's important. We're looking to put a little pressure on that hip, and then if you feel good from there, then you can go ahead and fold forward. We're gonna be here for 2 minutes. We got about 1:20 to go. You guys just kind of find the stretch that feels right for you. If you want to just chill out and just stay where you're at, do that. If you want to walk your hands off to the left, that might increase the stretch in a productive way. If Feel what's going to give you the best stretch while we are here. We're going for about another minute. We got another 30 seconds to go, you guys. Almost done with this side. All right, slowly come on up. You can take a seat on your right butt and then spin that left leg around out in front of you, and then just loop your left leg, or right leg back behind you. And same setup here, okay? My left hip, left hip feels kind of tight. I'm gonna walk my hands back so I get my hands alongside my hips. And again, I'm just gonna kind of settle into this stretch before I worry about folding forward, okay? Just kind of chilling out here, seeing what's going on, putting a little bit of gradual pressure into my hip. I can use my hands too, like if I push the ground away, I sit up a little bit further, kind of lessens the stretch. As you feel up to it, you can go ahead and fold forward. We got 90 more seconds on this side. We got one more minute to go here. So the next thing we're doing is we're going to do a different type of supported squat hold. We're going to be holding onto something out in front of us. The intent is kind of the same as what we were doing before, in that we want to give ourselves a little support so we can get into the most ideal position possible. Meaning, it's one thing to sit in the bottom of your squat and to be able to do that, but it's another to be able to do it with your back in a strong position. So we want our spine to be nice and neutral and to be sitting up as tall as we can. And so these supported squat holds are meant to help us get there. So I'm going to be using the leg of this table. You guys could use the legs of a dining room table, a coffee table, something like that. You could use a chair, whatever, but give yourself something that you can hold on to out in front of you. If you just don't have anything around, feel free to go back to the wall supported squat hold that we did a little while ago. We got 10 more seconds. All right, you guys, supported squat hold for 2 minutes. So before we get into this, find your squat stance, okay? Feet are straight forward, shoulder width apart. I'm just gonna grab a hold of this thing and I'm gonna sit down, all right? Nothing crazy going on here. I got my weight in my heels, my feet are straight forward. You can even put your elbows inside your knees, but I'm trying to sit as upright as I can, and I'm using what I'm holding on to for some support. Okay, I'm just trying to get into the most ideal position possible. Kelly Starrett from Mobility WOD, or the Ready State, is where we get 99% of the mobility stuff that we do. He's always talking about you want to mobilize the position of restriction, meaning if you have problems getting into the bottom of your squat, we want to try to get you there some way so that you can mobilize it as much as possible. So using some support, whether that's the leg of a table or a wall, if you're having problems getting into the bottom of your squat, this is a good way to do it. To make sure that you're kind of working your way forward, if you guys can get to a position where you can gradually let go of whatever's holding you up without actually toppling over backwards or anything like that, that's kind of a good way to measure whether or not you're in a good balanced squat. We got 1 more minute to go here. So sitting into the bottom of our squat is a good way to work on flexing the hip joint, so we're closing it. Next thing we're doing, we're going to get into a deep lunge, and we're going to work on opening it. Okay, so we're going back the opposite way in 15 seconds. We want to work on full range in every direction through our joints. That's what's most ideal, is to be able to work, get them to work through the most full range possible. So next thing we're doing, we're going to get into a deep lunge. I'll go right leg forward first, and now we're just going to add in a little bit of quad stretch. So I'm going to reach over my right leg. I'm going to grab my left foot and pull it back towards my butt. So now my left hip is opening, and the further that I pull this back, the more I feel it in my quad and my hip flexors. This is the stretch that's going to kind of counteract the squat, or work in the opposite direction of a squat hold. We're just here for 1 minute. If you want a little extra, you can use, so I'm stretching the left side right now. If I flex my left glute, so my left butt, that's going to help open that hip up even further. So I can pull my foot back, flex my left butt, hang out for just a second, relax, and then back off and relax. So push your hip down and forward, squeeze, and then back, tension off and relax. All right, you guys, we can switch it up. Other side. So just feel for wherever you find the stretch. If you can't grab your back foot, go back to the lunge that we were doing before. That's totally fine. Find a productive stretch wherever you are at. And if this isn't where you would like it to be, it's just something to work on, right? Don't beat yourselves up over not being able to get into the position somebody else can, or something like that. If there's something that you want to be able to do that you can't yet, just work on getting there. That's all you got to do. Just chip away at it. We got about 20 more seconds, and we're getting back into that wide-legged forward fold that we started with. All right, you guys, we got 2 minutes. Wide-legged forward fold. See if you can take it even a little bit further than where we were when we started. We got some movement through those muscles and through our hips, knees, and ankles now. So see if you can exaggerate the position even a little bit further. Maybe take your feet out a little bit wider. Change the stretch a little bit. Just see where you're at. Any movement around that feels good to you is fine by me. This one can be kind of intense for me, and whenever I find one that's super intense, I try to just think about how I'm breathing. Usually when I'm starting to freak out, and in my head I'm like, oh my god, this is feeling too intense, I'm usually not breathing very efficiently, and I'm usually just kind of taking like short, choppy breaths. And if I slow that down and think about taking big, slow breaths, I can actually sink into the stretch a little bit lower. So when you guys find yourselves with that happening, which happens to all of us, just think about that. Think about how you can use your breath to let yourself relax a little bit further, maybe sink into the stretch another inch. We got 30 more seconds to go. We're going to finish this thing out in child's pose. And start making your way on out of this nice and slow. Walk your feet back together. Nice and slow on the exit of that one. It can get a little intense. Maybe that's just me. We're finishing this up in child's pose, so knees go out wide. Feet point back together behind you. Sit back over your heels, and then just stretch your arms out in front of you. I'm going to let you guys enjoy this in silence. We got 1 minute here. right, you guys, that's 20 minutes. Nice work. You did it. 20 minutes of stretching. That went by so fast. As always, if you find one of these that's a struggle for you, maybe bookmark it and save it for a rainy day when you're looking to work on some stretching stuff and you just don't feel like doing it on your own is going to work. These are good things to just kind of pull up from time to time and work on. Not always going to feel the same. Some days you'll be tight and sore and you're not going to be able to get as far into them. That's okay. Just the work, just doing the work will take you a long way. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you ever have questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Get in touch anytime. I'm always happy to help out. I've stumbled through plenty of this stuff myself over the years, so if I can lend any of that advice to you, I'd be more than happy to. That's all I got for this one. I will see you on the next one. Have a good day, guys.